ends, we will not resume the meeting tonight, and all items will automatically be continued on the next scheduled meeting date. Also, yes. Also, this meeting is being recorded, and if anyone else is recording this meeting, you are required to let me know at this time or when you begin recording. Okay. Hearing none, I will assume no one is recording. And the first item on our agenda is approval of meeting minutes, May 24th, 2022.
I'll make a motion to approve the 524 minutes.
Okay, motion by Fletcher, seconded by Rachel. Yep. Any further discussion on those? Okay, hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote on that. I'll just go in the order on my screen here. Kristen?
Aye.
Fletcher?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
All right, and me, Travis Drury, I am also an aye. So those minutes are accepted. I was actually kind of a question for Mitch, maybe. I don't know if he thought about this yet, but the minutes for June 14th, 2022. I'm the only person here who was at that meeting.
Well, that's true.
Isn't enough to everyone else would be abstaining typically, so I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't a quorum that was there, so
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is like a rule of necessity thing where if less than a quorum is the only people who can vote for it, then they're the only ones who can vote for it. So, I guess I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from June 14th.
I think we can all still motion and second, so I'll second that.
Okay. All right, seconded by Rachel. I didn't see anything to add to that. I'm assuming no other. Okay, so I guess I'll do a roll call vote, which is me. And I'm an aye, so I approve those minutes. So that one was a little unusual. So I guess that passes unanimously. Oh, and sorry, and all abstaining. Anyone else abstaining? Okay, so the first thing on our agenda under public meetings and hearings is a public meeting for a request for determination of applicability for the 15th annual Wheeling for Healing Ride, Walk, Run at Wedgewood Gardens on Kimball Street, map 48, lot 24. And do we have someone here to speak about that project?
Yes, that's me, Stephanie Johnson.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Mitch, do you have like the documents to share the map and stuff?
yeah, I can share those.
So Stephanie, if you could just kind of give us an overview of what the event is and how it will use the property.
Yes, absolutely. So this is, like you said, the 15th anniversary. It will hopefully be our second year at the location. It is a ride, walk, and run to fundraise for oncology care and services at Bay State Franklin Medical Center. And we are planning to use the lot exactly the same way we did last year. And that is as kind of a base camp. As you can see from the map that Mitch is pulling up, we had a snow fence set up at that 200-foot kind of easeway that people were not allowed to go back behind for concern of the property. So we will be putting that up again. And then we will be putting up, they're just 10 by 10 pop-up tents where it says tents, but on the physical location, it's kind of a little cement alcove and surrounding grass. And There will be some tables and chairs kind of set up on the grass. Everything will come be delivered that day and leave with us that night, or the rental company will come pick it up. Nothing is permanent. All parking will be in front of that snow barrier. And we have volunteers set up to, kind of instruct people where to park and enforce that nobody goes behind that. Last year, there was also a stipulation to make sure, or, do whatever we could to make sure nobody goes near the water or the bank of the river. So we will do everything in our power to do that again. And the only thing that should be there overnight, either before or after the event, would be porta potties, depending on when the company can deliver them. Last year, I believe we had them delivered on Saturday and picked up on Monday. The event is Sunday, the 21st. All routes leave with those blue arrows. We have bidirectional traffic on that street, so all routes will leave, go, in their respective route, come back, where folks will then, either they'll take their lunch and either sit at some of those tables or leave. All trash will be taken with us, and I think those are the biggest points we had to meet last year. So are there any questions?
Before any commissioners have any questions, if anyone's not speaking, could you please mute yourself? We're getting a little background noise from someone. Thank you. All right. Any commissioners have any questions on this project?
This is kind of a weird question, but when you have the porta johns installed, I'm assuming they'll be outside of the riverfront area, which also is not a 200-foot buffer zone. It's a resource area. Will they be staked down so they don't blow over?
We have not come into that before. We had them placed on the cement last year, kind of as soon as you come into the area, right before you kind of hook that left, we had them right over in the corner against the tree line.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Do I put in the map back up again for a second, Mitch? That was
Yeah,
there.
sure.
This maybe I missed this in your explanation, Stephanie, but is there a reason why the road on the map continues back all the way into the 200-foot no parking zone? It looks like it kind of like wraps around and then back up toward the street.
Oh, Stephanie, you're muted.
Sorry. Mitch, if you don't, do you mind scrolling down just a bit? There's a legend where that orange corresponds. That's not a traffic lane. That is where we were told there was a wetland buffer. So we just had to denote that. Last year, I kept everything the same as last year. So there will be no foot traffic or vehicle traffic past that yellow temporary border. That's where we put up that snow fencing. There will be nobody past that point to the best of our capability.
Great. I just didn't see the legend while it was being shown and I misinterpreted the line. That's all. And were there anything so there's nothing changed last year? Everything went fine. Was there anything, Travis, I don't remember. I don't think we had any, do we have any like feedback or notes from last year's event that there was anything, that there were any issues?
I don't recall ever getting any issues or anything.
I think the only thing I remember last year that we did put in, which I assume would be the same, we would use the same languages to make sure that we are monitoring for extreme weather events because that area is in the flood zone. So I think assume if there was risk of flooding or extreme rain, do you have like a rain date or would the event just be canceled? We need to avoid having that area, certainly avoid having it trafficked, but also it could just be dangerous in a severe storm event.
So if there is a severe storm in progress, the event will just get canceled. You know, we do, if there's a little bit of sprinkle or rain, we do hold the event rain or shine so long as it's safe. And we note that. So if there gets to a point where you all don't feel it's safe to be on the property, then we can make that call.
Great. Yeah, I think that would be Mitch in that case. Mitchell.
Yeah, I think that was one of the conditions for the other years, was that we could cancel it.
Great.
Mitch, do you have a copy from last? I couldn't find the actual conditions from last year.
Oh, they now
There's
in the drive?
there's one in the folder, but it's for the overflow parking for the Green River Festival. I didn't see the one for wheeling.
Yeah, that's what I saw too. Oh, but there is one that says draft. Mitch, if you go back into that folder, there was one that said, oh yeah. Yeah, that's what I saw as well.
I remember seeing it, but I don't see it here.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, what we've talked about so far for potential conditions would be putting up that temporary barrier again in the same place, canceling the event in case of an extreme rain event, and going along with the barrier, no one going beyond the barrier, either on foot or in a vehicle. Stephanie, does that sound about like what what we had last year?
That sounds about the same. Yep.
Okay.
Sorry if you said this already, Stephanie, but has sort of management of waste and like trash been sufficient the past couple of years? That
So yeah,
Or is
last
there-
year we just took we packed up all the trash with us and took it back and disposed of it at the hospital.
I guess that could be a condition too, to remove all waste from the site.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like anything substantially changed, and I feel comfortable with the conditions we had last time around. I just can't find a copy of them. So yeah, it seems reasonable to maybe work towards or to talk about a negative determination or box 2. From what I've heard so far.
Is that a motion, Fletcher?
I was kind of hoping those conditions would pop up as I was talking, but yeah, I'll make a motion to issue a negative determination for the Wheeling for Healing event under box 2. The work described in the request is within an area subject to protection under the Act, but will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter that area. Therefore, said work does not require the filing of a notice of intent.
Did you want to make that box 2 with conditions?
I'm sorry, and also subject to the special conditions, same as the last event that we heard last year.
I'll second the motion.
All right, motion for negative determination by Fletcher, seconded by Rachel. Any further discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing no further discussion, we'll put that to a roll call vote. Rachel,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
and I am also an aye, so that passes unanimously. Negative determination for, I just want to read it. Negative determination for the RDA for the 15th annual Wheeling for Healing Ride, Walk, Run at Wedgwood Gardens. Okay, so thanks, Stephanie. Mitch will be in touch with the conditions and everything. So,
Great. Thank you all so much. Have a great night.
all right, thank you. All right, so next on our agenda is a public hearing, notice of intent, Greenfield 28W line rebuild project adjacent to the Greenfield 28W substation on Power Court, map 30, lot 28, DEP number 1680348. And is someone here for that project?
Yes, I am. My name is Kimberly Draghi, representing the NStar Electric Company, doing business as Eversource Energy.
All right. And do you have documents you want to share and just sort of walk us through it, or should we share those?
I do actually. I can pull up the map. You'll have to give me a second. I have
Sure.
never shared on this platform before, so I just need to try to figure out how to do that.
If you see the share at the top left is where mine is, if that's helpful. But you're
Okay.
probably already past that point, I'm guessing. So
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out. See if this works.
That does
Oh.
work.
Can you folks see the map now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so basically what this project is, it's for Eversource, like I was saying. The 28W substation off of Power Court in Greenfield has basically reached the end of its useful life. The equipment is aging. And so in order to bypass and decommission, so to abandon and decommission the substation, what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to rebuild the B5 and the B6 distribution lines within the existing right of way, just to the west of the substation over in Greenfield. In order to do that, the lines have to shift a little bit to the south. So basically what they're proposing to do is, and what is jurisdictional in this application, is they're going to be installing 5 new poles within wetland, 1 new pole within a buffer area. In order to install those poles and install the new overhead conductor, they're going to have to remove 14 trees within the wetland and 8 trees in the buffer. So I'm not sure, can you see my cursor at all?
Yes, I can see
Okay,
it.
great. Okay, so the 5 new poles we're talking about is this one here, this one here, this one here, this one here, this one here. Those are all poles that will be installed within wetlands. This pole here is in the buffer zone. The tree removals are along the southern edge of the right-of-way. Because the lines have to shift to the south, there will be some tree clearing required along the southern edge of the existing right-of-way. We have trees that will be removed in the buffer, and then trees, again, that will be removed in wetland areas as well, in order to put in the new conductor wire. then there'll be 150 feet of UG conduit. This conduit is going to run along the exterior of the existing perimeter fence of the substation. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to connect the existing distribution system back to these new lines. So one of the parts of the proposal is installing a switchgear in the buffer zone down here. Basically where power court kind of turns and comes to an end, and then if you continue on, you come to the substation. There's no actual physical address for the substation, so we just always say it's off of power court. The switch gears would be going in this area. From this point, they'll be installing underground conduit within the existing pavement up to about the substation fence. That part of the conduit installation would be exempt because it is installed with an existing pavement. But from that point on, in order to reach the B6 line, they have to install this UG conduit here. So that's what that 150 feet of UG conduit that you see is. Because this is not an existing pavement, because this is in a grassy area, it's been included in the application because it's in the buffer zone. And then, of course, the switch gears themselves. The switch gears would be 9 feet by 15 feet, surrounded by a 20 by 20 chain link fence with a gate.
And those last two pieces of equipment, the switch gears, I think you said, are they're on the pavement. Is that right?
The switch gears are not on the pavement. They're just off of the pavement. They will be located in a grassy area in the buffer zone. The switch gears, basically, since we're going to be abandoning and decommissioning the substation, the switch gears are required to turn the line on and off in the event of an emergency or an outage, because the substation will no longer be functioning. I can zoom in a little bit more on that if you'd like to see exactly where those are. No, maybe I can't. Yep, I can.
I'm still hearing an echo from call-in user 3. I don't know if anyone else is getting that or if it's just me.
Yeah, I'm getting that too.
If you are caller user 3, could you please mute yourself?
Maybe Mitch. Oh, it sounds like maybe it stopped. So, oh, there it is again. Mitch, would you be able to mute them?
Yeah, I think I did it. Yep.
Great, thank you.
And maybe unmute during public comments. If there aren't any immediate questions, I was thinking we could look at DEP's comments quick. That's usually a good place to start. You can leave that on the screen and I can just read out loud.
Sure.
It says there are two comments. One is the project appears to qualify to be filed as a limited project under 310 CMR 1053 3D. So that's one comment. And the other comment was pursuant to 310 CMR 1059, the Conservation Commission shall not issue an order of conditions under 310 CMR 1005-6 regarding any such project for at least 30 days after the filing of the notice of intent, unless NHESEP, before such time period has elapsed, has either determined that the resource areas which would be altered by the project is not in fact within the habitat of a state-listed species, or if it has determined that such resource areas are in fact within within rare species habitat, rendered a written opinion as to whether the project will have an adverse effect on the habitat. And then the third comment actually is, please note that 310 CMR 1053-3 states, no such limited project may be permitted which will have any adverse effect on specified habitat sites of rare species as identified by procedures established under 310 CMR 1059.
I think for those last two comments, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's been 30 days, I think, since filing, and And I think the review has taken place
I
by
do.
GSP.
Yes, I just sent Mitchell a copy of the letter. I can share that if you like. I have it pulled up on my screen. The responses that we received from Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. I thought that they had sent that to you, and I guess they did not.
I think I have that. I think that's in the drive.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't see you copied on the bottom. I just pulled it up and I went, oh no. So let me send that along to Mitchell. What they basically want is they basically want a turtle monitoring plan that we're going to pull together for them, and that we have to submit to them prior to the commencement of construction.
So you received a take avoided through conditions.
I believe what they said was that they didn't think that there would be a take, but we have to monitor for turtles because this is turtle habitat.
Yeah, and the letter does say the division has determined that this project as currently proposed will not adversely affect the actual resource area habitat of state protected rare wildlife species. But then it does say
They want a protection plan.
yeah, it says that it is the habitat of the wood turtle, and it says to avoid a prohibited take of state listed species, the following condition must be met. Turtle protection. Prior to the start of work, a wood turtle protection plan shall be submitted to the division for review and written approval. Said plan shall detail procedures for protecting state listed turtles during construction, focusing on sweeping the active work areas. The protection plan shall be prepared and implemented by a qualified biologist, pre-approved by the division. So that was essentially the findings.
Yes.
So that's like a conditional no take or take avoided through conditions. So that sounds good, I think, as far as the Wetlands Protection Act goes.
Mitch, do you want to pull up site visit photos?
Sure.
Would you like me to stop sharing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for walking us through that map.
Sure, no problem.
Mitch, it's showing me that you're sharing, but all I see is just like a gray
Oh, is it
screen.
still loading?
I don't know. It's just, I can see your cursor, but everything else is just a gray screen.
I could try again.
Okay, I can see the drive now.
Okay.
Maybe before or while we're looking at these
Sure.
photos, it sounded like a big part of the project from the standpoint of impact was some of the matting that you put down to run equipment over. And I was wondering if you could talk about that. And also, either now or maybe after, we could talk about how part of the project is seeking limited, or is that the right word, limited project status, and part isn't. And just sort of delineating sort of the two pieces.
Sure. So as far as the matting is concerned, what we included in the NOI application was the matting for it's 3 work pads for 4 new pole installations. And the rest of the matting, what Eversource has is a standing administrative consent order, which serves as a water quality certification from the DEP, which allows them to perform operations and maintenance work. So the matting that was associated with basically the access through the wetlands and the work pads for the replacement structures is being permitted under that ACO, and is also being permitted through self-verification notifications to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We cannot permit work pads for new poles under, the ACO that is standing for Eversource. So we included that work pad, or those 3 work pads, which is a total of 2,785 feet of matting in the NOI. We did submit self-verification notifications to the Corps for all of the matting. They want matting, whether it's a new structure or replacement structure, or maintenance on a structure. Some of the matting, a little bit of the access is needed to get to a structure where they need to perform overhead maintenance just before the Patriot Corridor Railroad. So that was also included in the ACO.
This just shows where some poles are being taken out and replaced. Yeah, this is the light pole that will be replaced. I think this is a new pole location. These are marked with the red stakes.
Yes. White poles with red tops are new pole locations.
I think there's one up here somewhere.
I believe what you're looking at there, Mitchell, is the pole that requires the overhead maintenance.
Oh, okay.
That was the pole right before the Patriot Corridor Railroad.
This is where the switch is going.
Yes, that's where the switch gears will be going.
And the proposed underground conduit location, which is exempt.
Yes.
This is the area that's not exempt.
Exactly. Yes,
Okay.
that's the exterior of the perimeter fence of the existing substation.
This is the only area within this limit of work that's not exempt.
No, as far as the UG conduit installation goes, we're installing UG conduit from the switch gears basically to run up to where the B6 line is now going to be located. There is an existing light pole outside of the substation that's going to be replaced with a utility pole. And in order to get power to that pole, we have to run UG conduit, or they deem that UG conduit would be the easiest way to do that. UG conduit installed within existing roadways and driveways is exempt. UG conduit obviously not installed within existing roadways or driveways is not exempt, and that conduit is in the buffer zone. But they'll be installing that right on the along the edge of the fence.
So I took some pictures of the trees that were marked to be removed.
Yes.
They're marked with the blue flagging.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, it's hard to make out on some of these.
Yeah, they don't. I apologize. They don't put large flags. They tend to put some very small flags there.
But you have them quantified and DBH.
Yes, they're all, yes, they were all GPSed in the field and marked on the mapping. The locations of the tree removals, yes.
And the species and the diameter breast height, roughly?
Yes, we included the overall area of impact for the tree removals in the application. I believe since the project qualified as a limited project, we just gave an overall cover, which if you give me a second, I can tell you. It was aerial impact was 660 square feet. And that was based on the surveys that were performed by the delineators out in the field. So
Isn't it the case though that some some of the project is limited, some of it isn't, and some of the tree removal is in the non-limited.
I when you said that, when I was looking at it, all of the work associated with the NOI is permissible as a limited project.
Hmm.
So
The way I was reading it, and could definitely be wrong, is that some of the work was maintenance, and so that was what gave it limited
well,
status, whereas some was new.
maintenance work. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, just some was new installation, like additional capacity, and so that was not under the limited status. But I may have got that distinction wrong.
The new work qualifies under limited status.
Oh,
The
okay.
maintenance work is exempt.
I see.
Replacement of existing utility poles is exempt under the Wetlands Protection Act.
Got
So
it. Exempt. I was thinking limited was exempt, but no, I see what you're saying now. Okay.
Yeah, I can just add to that the Wetlands Protection Act, 1053 3D, under it's what things qualify as limited projects. It says the construction, reconstruction, operation, and maintenance of underground and overhead public utilities, such as electrical distribution or transmission lines, or yada yada yada, a lot of other things. It says, in accordance with the following general conditions and any additional conditions deemed necessary by the issuing authority, and then it has 4 things. 1, the issuing authority may require a reasonable alternative route with fewer adverse effects for local distribution or connecting line, not reviewed by the Energy Facilities Siting Council. 2, best available measures shall be used to minimize adverse effects during construction. And 3, surface vegetation and contours of the area shall be substantially restored. And then 4 doesn't qualify because it's about sewer lines.
I would just like to say that using construction matting does more or less preserve the existing vegetation. I wouldn't mind knowing the number of trees and the species and their diameter, breast height, but I don't think we can require that of you. I'm just curious in my own mind.
I know it was 22 trees total. Within bordering vegetated wetlands, the total was 420 square feet. And within the 100-foot buffer zone, the total aerial impact was 240 square feet. Because it was a limited project, we didn't go further than that. So while I'm sure I have that information available in, the survey notes, I don't have it readily available at this moment.
Yeah, Kristen, there's a in the NOI application, there's table 2.1 jurisdictional activities within Greenfield, and it has it just has the number of trees, and whether it's within the BVW or the buffer zone. There's a
Yes, and the aerial impacts is actually, it's on table 4.2 on page 8A, if you wanted to look at that as well. So that gives you the total number of trees being removed for each structure. And then the table on page 8A is the total aerial impact within BVW and within the buffer zone. And that's the table right there. Yep.
I would like to thank you for putting in a section on performance standards. That's really helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Eversource does have a best management practices manual that is to be followed by all of its contractors working on their jobs within the right of way or, or any work that they perform. So that best management practices manual is typically what Eversource uses, as well as any, permit conditions, or in this case, like we'll be doing the turtle monitoring plan for Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. So.
And then another piece I wanted to share was the section alternatives analysis that my understanding of this is basically there aren't really any alternatives because that's where the right of ways are and that's where the substation is. So that's my reading of this section.
Yes, and it is an existing, it's an existing right of way. The B5 and the B6 lines are existing, not all of, it's not a complete rebuild. Some of the poles are being replaced, but like I said, it will need to be relocated south in order to bypass where the existing substation is now. So.
Do you anticipate needing to do any dewatering?
The poles are directly embedded. So basically what they do is they just take an auger and they would, we're not trenching. If we had to trench, we would probably use something probably like a frac tank and dispose of any water off site. For example, in the section that's along the fence line, dewatering right now is not anticipated. With a directly embedded pole, what they do is they just basically, the matting's there so that we can get basically what is kind of like a drill rig out. They drill a hole, they drop the pole into that hole, and they backfill. And any backfill that they don't use would be taken off site and disposed of properly. But certainly, if we did have to dewater, then what we would do is set up proper dewatering methods. And that's all outlined in their BMP manual. I know on another job that we just did, we decided to use a frac tank because there was no adjacent undisturbed upland area. In this case, they might use like a filter bag because we do have adjacent undisturbed upland. But because of where the buffer zone is in the upland area, it's basically an on-site call, but they have all of that outlined in their best management practices.
When do you anticipate the work happening, Kimberly?
So they're hoping to start in August, which I think would also help us to minimize dewatering, based on receiving this approval. And also there is a waiting period after you submit your self-verification notifications to the Corps. In Massachusetts, we typically need to wait 30 days. Those were submitted today. And the ACO is usually 48 hours prior, but I believe that is also going out this week as well. And we will be preparing that turtle plan this week also. I'll actually be putting that together tomorrow.
So do we need to keep this hearing open until Heritage responds, or are we all set? Because Heritage has issued their conditions and we can just cross-reference whatever they reference in their conditions.
Yeah, we did get they did send a response. We have a letter from June 16th with their response saying that there's no adverse effect to the habitat.
Actual resource habitat.
Yeah, that's what it says.
Okay, so we can close the hearing and they can take care of their estimated and priority habitat regulatory review with MISA. Okay.
Well, yeah, we have the MISA determination letter already, so that's already done. They just have to do a turtle plan.
Right.
Of that.
Right, but sometimes commissions don't close if they haven't. Okay, all right, that's fine. That works.
I guess maybe I'm not understanding.
No, that's good. I'm good. I'm answered. Thank you.
Okay. Just to clarify, this was the letter that I was referring to.
Kimberly, do you all ever given that this is a limited project, or seems to qualify as one rather, and I see a bit of a restoration section there, but because there are so many trees coming out, I was wondering if there's any precedent for you guys restoring with additional sort of comparable vegetation to replace what was lost, or?
So typically when you're working within a right of way, we can't replant trees. There are regulations about hazard trees and trees meeting electrical safety clearances from the line. So, they would not allow trees basically to grow up again underneath
So, yeah.
where the overhead lines are.
So you couldn't put in like a tall canopy tree, but would there be potential for putting in sort of line safe species, or?
Typically what they do is they have a vegetation maintenance plan. So what you'll see in a lot of instances is that when you lose forest canopy, what you get is shrub cover growing in place of that. And then of course they'll maintain the right of way every so often. Exactly how often they do it in their vegetation maintenance plan right now, I can't exactly tell you. But the National Safety Council for electrical overhead lines has regulations about, we're just not allowed to replant trees within what they consider, the existing right of way in order to meet those electrical safety clearances from the conductor wire. But what you'll typically see is just a conversion from forested to scrub shrub habitat. And then every so often, in order to make sure that we're not growing trees there, they do have to come in and maintain the right of way again.
Got it.
Is that scrub shrub habitat something that is just kind of naturally seeded with buckthorn and multiflora rose and bittersweet, or is that something that is actually replaced on a one-to-one basis?
They wouldn't do plantings of shrubs in the right of way, if that's what you're asking. So if we were, in this case, because we're using construction matting, like you said, construction matting usually is minimally impacted, it has a minimal impact on the vegetation that's already there. The trees that'll be cut down, what they do in order to minimize the impact there is they cut the trees down, but they leave the stumps and the root systems in place so that they're not creating additional ground disturbance by pulling the root systems out. And then what you'll usually see is just, the vegetation that's in the area already will start to come in. They're not going to be, pulling all of the root systems and the stumps out. So the trees will be cut, but the stumps will be left. And then it's, if this was something where we were installing conduit or doing invasive work within the right of way where we were digging, then we would usually reseed with a conservation seed mix or a wetland seed mix, depending on where we were working, because this is just directly embedded holes where they're just going to drill a hole and drop the pole and then fill back in. If we need to, we will seed and mulch around the base of the poles with a, if that's necessary, but typically you see the vegetation come back really fast from just what's already there. And where they're trenching along the fence line, they'll probably drop a conservation seed mix because that's an upland area.
I guess I just wanted to add that essentially, we've been talking about this being a limited project, and essentially that just means that it doesn't have to meet all of the normal performance standards that a project typically would with an NOI.
sort of getting a sense of what the understory vegetation is. Looking at the site visit photos, and it looks like there certainly is a presence of invasives that, and then also a mix of goldenrod and jewelweed and sumac, and elderberry in there as well. So
Yeah, it looked like there was a lot of multiflora rose, and that's kind of
a lot of
what I was.
multiflora rose, Dame's rocket, and then also a lot of bittersweet and some of the, or at the base of some of the trees. Sorry, I cut you off there, Kristen, because I wanted to list the rest of them too.
No. That's all I was thinking. I was thinking the exact same thing. Invasive species love recently disturbed species, and we only have jurisdiction over the wetland and the buffer zone. And if it's a limited project, we have even less. But that was just one point that I just wanted to plant in everyone's head. That's all.
But it's, yeah, it's clearly already there. Wild grape. It does look like it's very vegetated. So if there is no stump removal, like, and it doesn't seem like um there will be like newly disturbed patches of bare earth. It's mostly the overstory and a sun duration of the solar access to that ground rather than an actual physical soil disturbance. Is that true, Kimberly?
Yes. Mhm. Yes, they do that specifically to minimize ground disturbance.
Maybe you can the trees that are totally covered in bittersweet, those vines can get gone with the trees that they're hanging onto as well.
Are there any more questions from commissioners at this time, or should we open it to public comments? Okay, hearing none, I will open the public comment for this notice of intent. Mitch, if you could unmute that call-in user in case they had something they wanted to say.
I think I did, and they unmuted themselves. So, or they remuted themselves.
Okay.
So, nothing.
Okay, I'm hearing no public comments at this time. We have a lot of people here, but I think they're here for other projects. All right, if there are no public comments, I'll close the public comment period. And if the commissioners have any more questions, or someone could make a motion to close the public hearing, which would then be followed by a motion to issue an order of conditions or deny an order of conditions.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, motion to close the public hearing by Rachel, seconded by Fletcher. Any more discussion on closing the public hearing? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote. The order changes every time. Fletcher?
Aye.
Kristen?
Yes, I.
Rachel?
Hi.
I'm also an aye. Okay, so the public hearing is now closed. So, are there
To issue an order of conditions for the Illinois.
I will second that.
okay? Any further discussion on the motion to issue an order of conditions?
We need to discuss what special conditions.
Yep.
I'd like to request a copy, just to be copied on the turtle management plan so that we can put that in our files as well. It's not required, but when you send that to the NHGSP, if you could CC us, that would be great.
Sure, absolutely.
Do we want to request a copy of a dewatering plan if it should become necessary?
Do you want me to respond to that, or yes? Yeah, what I could do is I could, if you'd like, I can send you a copy of the Eversource BMP manual, which discusses all of the dewatering methods that they use. Like I said, I would think in this case, if they have undisturbed upland area that they can access easily, they'll use probably like a filter bag. If not, they would, probably use a frac tank. But I can certainly copy you on the Eversource BMP manual if you'd like that. I can send that over to Mitchell.
I assume that would be known, I don't know if without erosion controls, but if there is a pre-construction walk to just inspect the matting that's down before the construction actually starts, like you would know at that point if dewatering was necessary, correct? So that could be included in a pre-construction site visit.
Yeah, I typically what we encounter, dewatering for is primarily where like UG conduit, things like that would be going. But certainly, yeah. Yep.
I know we talked a lot about vegetation, and I'm not sure what even could be possible, but is there any possibility?
Yeah, of revegetating, Travis, is that what you're going to say? I mean, specifically, I'm looking, because Kimberly, you're talking about the right-of-way specifically and some of the standard maintenance practices there and why that sort of precludes planting larger trees or even doing much revegetation. But is there not, I mean, there's some, I'm guessing the person with the agricultural land wouldn't want trees planted in their fields, for example, but isn't there maybe some edges of the project that might, I mean, obviously it's dependent on what's actually on the ground and what it could actually use, but where maybe some, sort of above ground living carbon could be planted there. Maybe like over by the switch gears, is that what they're called? Or not necessarily that's a spot I'm suggesting, but are there any sort of edges of the project that aren't?
I could certainly ask them if they would be agreeable to replanting bushes along possibly like the switchgear fence line or the substation fence line. Since that's not something that they typically do, I don't know if there's a reason for that or not. So I don't you know, I don't want to tell you like, oh yeah, 100% yes, we'll plant some shrubs over there. But I could certainly find out from them and see if they would be agreeable to replanting some bushes. One of the things I think sort of is a deterrent to that is just that there is, you know, it's these areas aren't manned. So there's, you know, one of the things that I think they encounter is, you know, if you're installing plantings, sometimes it's hard to ensure that they'll take if you're not at a manned facility and there's no one there to, you know, to water them or, you know, things like that on a daily basis. And so I think what sometimes ends up happening in facilities like this is that they have to just keep planting them over and over and over again, because, you know, these
Management would be in it. You don't want to be wasteful. I understand. Yeah.
right. These aren't areas where, you know, where we're going to permanently have staff present or even, you know, facilities to obtain water, even.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you asked about a reason. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like some of the vegetation to be taken out isn't quite. I'm just having trouble reading the map here, but isn't quite in the ROW area, or it's sort of on the edge. And
So
it would just be replacing that would be the reason I'm suggesting. But
yeah, so the majority of the work and where the tree removals are occurring, the tree removals are occurring on Eversource property,
sure.
you know, or, you know, within the you know, the southern edge of the existing right of way. So yeah, I'm just not sure without, you know, without it being a manned location. Certainly if it was, you know, somewhere where we had people on the ground regularly. But
Got it. Okay.
Fletcher, I was just going to add that since we closed the public hearing, we have to issue the order of conditions within 21 days if we're issuing one. So that would, if we had to wait on, you know, feedback about certain conditions, that that has to happen within the 21 days, I guess is what I'm saying. I guess I would just say that I personally, I don't know, with it being in a right of way and, you know, there's going to be maintenance of the lines and things like that going forward, that I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem that.
Not worth it.
Maybe. Maybe that's a good way to say it. I don't know. Okay, so the conditions that I've heard so far that we've come up with is requesting a copy of the turtle plan. I don't know if this has to be an official condition, but receiving a copy of the Eversource BMP manual and inspecting any dewatering sites at the pre-construction site visit.
Maybe to specify that the stumps are left in place for the trees unless that's clearly stated in the NOI. So there's no stump pull.
I believe that is in the NOI.
Great.
I think I saw that in there.
I saw it also in there.
Great. That's all.
Any other conditions to discuss? I'm gonna actually make a motion to amend the previous motion to say with the special conditions that we just mentioned.
Seconded.
Okay. I guess we have to do a roll call vote. That was seconded. It's because we're remote. We have to do a roll call vote every time. All right. So a motion to amend the previous motion. Fletcher,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Rachel.
Aye.
Okay, and I'm also an aye. So, all right. So the previous motion is to issue the order of conditions now with the special conditions mentioned. Hearing no further discussion, we'll do a roll call vote on that motion. Fletcher,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
and I'm also an aye. So that passes unanimously, and we will be issuing an order of conditions for this project. All
Okay.
right. Thank you, Kimberly, for presenting the project tonight.
Yes, thank you everyone for your time and your questions.
All right.
And I will send the BMP manual over to Mitchell. And then as soon as we have that turtle plan completed, I will also send that to you as well. Okay.
Okay. And Mitch will be in touch with your documentation.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you.
Enjoy your night.
Okay. We're moving along here.
Those conditions are along with all like the normal conditions, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Making sure.
With the addition of the special conditions that we mentioned. All right, so next, okay, I went back to the screen to make sure I wasn't muted. Next on our agenda is a public meeting, request for determination applicability, installation of a septic tank, D-box and leach field at 427 Adams Road, map R07, lot 9B. Is there someone here for that project?
Yes, I'm present, Susan Toombs, on behalf of Constance Toombs.
Okay, welcome, Susan. I think,
And I believe,
yeah, go ahead.
oh, my sister Rose Bache is also present, and Catherine Bridges, the RS. And also the contractor who we intend to have install the system, Sam from Brownings in Northfield, is also on, I believe.
All right. Mitch, could you maybe share the plan?
Yeah, sure.
And then Susan, or if someone else wants to basically just walk us through the project.
Kathy, do you want to speak as to the details of the project, or?
Jake, why don't you speak for it?
All right. I don't have a plan right there. I don't know exactly what's going on the computer here, but
Yeah, I'm trying to get the plan up for you.
okay.
You can wait a second if you want until we get the plan up.
Which is most helpful, you think?
Probably that one, yeah. Oh, I think you stopped sharing.
It did. I don't know why.
I have a plan here that I'll just grab real quick that I can look at, then I can explain it. But you guys probably want to see it too. But
Yeah, thanks. There's a hand up, KH Bridges. It doesn't appear that you're muted, but I haven't heard anything. If you're trying to speak.
So the plan just consists of removing the old leach field that's there and installing a new one. There is some wetland areas, and we'll be within 50 feet of that, or outside of that 50-foot area. So we won't be within 50 feet of it. But I don't know exactly. We had talked, we met, I can't remember. I think it was Kimberly. Did she come out there?
I think I was out there. Kristen?
Yeah, Kristen. That's what it was, Kristen. And we talked about what you guys would prefer for whether silt fence, bales of hay, the hay wattles, or the 12-inch erosion control sock. It's like got mulch in it, the hay sock. So that was my question, wanting to know exactly what you guys would want to protect that area. But it's just a new septic tank and a new leach field that's being installed.
I'm on by telephone if you can hear me.
Yes.
Kathy.
Yep, we can hear you now.
I'm watching you and everything else, but I don't know. I've never done this before. So, yes, this is a repair septic. The actual system meets the 50-foot from the wetland BVW that was flagged by Ward Smith. We're putting up siltation erosion controls more than 25 feet away from that BVW over here, the blue line. At the site visit, it was shown that we have a bit of area outside of, well, it would be northerly, but also southerly to put excavation materials while we're working. So, and the actual system does not require any fill. Everything is in the ground. So we should be able to meet that minimum of 50 feet by Title V and the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection.
Okay, yeah, and I'll just add to that. The Wetlands Protection Act, what it says about this is that it shall be presumed to protect the 8 interests identified in the Wetlands Protection Act, but only if none of the components of said system is located within the following resource areas, and then it lists resource areas. And then it says, and only if the soil absorption system of said system is set back at least 50 feet horizontally from the boundary of said areas. So as long as it's outside the 50, at least 50 feet away from the wetland, it's presumed that the absorption system will protect the interests of the act. So basically what that means is what's left for us to decide is just the general construction, where the soil is stored during the construction and soil stabilization and things like that, erosion control. So just to clarify.
The erosion control, whatever they decide, whether it's a silt fence, hay bales, whatever, is almost on the top of where this grade starts to go down. So that in addition to erosion siltation, it's a good visual barrier for any stockpiling or even any vehicles. So yes, we've just made it by the 50 feet, and the construction, which can interfere if we have snow, rainstorms, should be protected with the siltation erosion control.
Okay, and just a couple other things to point out. I think the line for the siltation erosion control is outside the 25-foot no disturb zone also, if I recall. I'm gonna have to look at this plan on my own computer because it's hard to. Mitch, could you like zoom in on the top left part of that?
Yeah, let me try.
Oh, you might have to like download it or something to get a higher quality.
Yeah, I believe that the silt control, the erosion control, whatever it is that you guys would like me to put down is going to be probably, 30 feet, 35 feet from that wetland area, so if you're saying 20, you were thinking it was outside of that 25-foot area, I'm pretty sure it is.
Is there
Sorry.
sorry, I was just gonna say, is it marked on this map where this like soil would be stockpiled?
No.
If you look on that where ideally for me to stockpile the material, you can see the old septic tank and proposed new tank coming right off the center of the house. And then there's a shed to the far right. It would be that corner of the house, so looking at the tank, it would be to the, if looking at this right now, the right hand side of that tank. So between the tank and the shed. Yeah,
So
kind of
on
right
the
where that little
upland
cursor
side,
is. Yep,
further away from the wetland.
exactly.
And also away from the slope. It's on the higher side of the property.
Mitch, do you have site visit photos to share?
Yeah.
And anyone feel free to help describe what we're looking at, where things would be in relation to this picture.
Right. I think this is where the D box is.
So where the grass is kind of dead there's kind of a dirt spot. That's the old septic tank. Closer to the house is the old septic tank, and the D box is just a little bit further out. So on that picture there.
This is the wetlands over here. Flagged.
Correct.
And the siltation erosion control will start at that deck, at the northerly end of that deck, and come around. So that there won't be anything going down that bank towards the BVW.
Is that next picture where the new leach field's going?
Correct. Yep. Again, where that dug up dirt is there, where you can see the grass, where it's not green, that's where the perk tests were and the deep holes were done.
Kristen, it sounds like you may have had some preferences about erosion controls at this site.
Well, I was going to ask the question about stockpiling, but you beat me to it, Travis. I mean, when I was talking with them in the field, it didn't seem, sorry, my neighbor is mowing his lawn. If you can hear that. It didn't seem like a very steep slope, and it seemed like they were proposing to place erosion controls at the top of the slope. So I I'm open to suggestions from the commission, but I personally think that maybe a 12-inch wattle, straw wattle staked 5 feet on center would be sufficient, as opposed to a silt fence with straw bales trenched in for 3 days worth of work. But open to ideas from the rest of the commissioners.
The wattle recommendation sounds reasonable to me. Looks pretty
I agree with that.
fairly flat and straightforward there.
Any other questions or concerns or potential conditions from the commissioners? Anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion for a negative termination for RDA for 124. Excuse me, for 427 Adams Road, given the special conditions of where to locate the dirt piles and the specific erosion controls of a straw wattle.
I will second that.
Just to clarify, that would be a type 3 negative determination within the buffer zone.
Thank you.
Okay, motion by Fletcher, seconded by Kristen. Any further discussion on that?
I would just like to thank the applicant for such a detailed application. This was a really well done application. We get a lot of consultants who don't do such a good job. So thank you very much. It was great.
All right, if there are no more discussion, we can vote on the negative determination. Kristen,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. So that motion passes unanimously, and we will issue a negative determination for the installation of a septic tank, D-box, and leach field at 427 Adams Road. So thank you everybody for being here, and Mitch will be in touch with all the documentation for you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Just want to mention something real quick about, well, actually, I guess we're switching from WebEx, aren't we? So this is almost useless, but in the layout, if you go to full screen, it really helps with when there's a screen share up, it expands it to the size you're expecting. But
Nice.
We're going to Zoom for one meeting, I think.
oh, nice. Okay.
Okay. All right. Well, so next on our agenda, we have 123 Verde Drive physical barrier plan.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
JSRP.
Hi. Mitch, do you have a document to bring up?
Yeah, I can show something.
Okay. All right. Yeah, if you could introduce yourselves.
Yep. I'm Alan. This is my wife Amanda. We bought 123 Verde back in April. And as part of the buying process, there was an order of condition on the property. And so we were looking to have that resolved. Looks like there was some area in the back left corner that during construction had been run over by some of the trucks. And so we were asked to plant some grass seed or conservation seed and put in a more permanent structure. So we've been working with Chris, the builder. I see his name on here. He hasn't said anything yet, so he might just be stepped away.
It looks like he's Unmuted.
And so we discussed with him a plan of putting in a few large stones that sort of mark that area off to indicate sort of the 200-foot boundary line there. Yes, that's. Yep, I think that's what Chris had submitted to
Okay.
you guys.
So that looks like two 500-pound stones.
Yep.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions off the top, or do we need to look at a photo of the site again? Yeah, maybe
Just looking for a good view on the spot in question, but
I think there was like one photo that showed it.
Yeah, I just don't know if the Wi-Fi would extend all the way out there.
Do it from the phone.
I think maybe that's 7508. I think that's that
This
corner.
area back here.
I think that's where the seating was done and where the
Yeah.
stones would be placed, right?
Yep, it's that back left corner. It looks very different now with all the grass grown in.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think those older site visits had. I think that photo we were
Yeah,
looking
just
at was
noticed
probably the best
that's
one.
21.
Yeah. Any
Mhm.
I think that might have been that corner too, with the marker for the 200-foot riverfront area.
Yep. It dips back. The brook dips back towards our house a little bit, and so from basically there back to the woods, there's been seed all put in there, and it's grown in. And we put that between that marker, and there's another one farther up that indicates we would put the stones along that line.
Yeah, and I guess I would just to clarify the intentions for the stones is just, so that that 200-foot riverfront area boundary is clearly visible, and which helps you to not accidentally disturb that resource area going forward.
Yep. Yeah, because when you follow the line, it comes through, and the back of our house is like it's pretty well clearly lined. There's where it's been undisturbed, so it just connects that one line through the back.
So do you think hypothetical? You guys sell the property, someone else comes in. Do you think the two stones? I don't know if you've got a visual idea of how big they are, but you think those would be sufficient to sort of stop someone from mowing into that area, or sort of?
Yeah, because especially once it grows back in, it looks very different from the rest of the lawn. Like the rest of it will be clear lawn, and then it's all sorts of non-lawn, like just whatever the conservation seed mix puts in there. And so we are planning to put a fence in sort of on this other side, so it's not near that corner, but that would then continue the line all the way through, such that it would sort of be the stones into the fence, and then behind that is just non-grass, just overgrown brush, and then it would be like, lawn grass.
I think that's the main. That was the hope. So it sounds like it's
Mhm.
it's a good plan.
Travis, did our special condition, it's an, specify that it needs approval. So is this a motion and vote to accept this plan?
Sorry, could you repeat that? Or did you say it does require approval?
Does this require a vote? Do they just need to submit it for comment, or do we need to approve it?
That's a good question. I think we said it needed to be approved, but we could open the enforcement.
What my memory's telling me.
Is the enforcement order
Um,
closed?
No, I think these are the conditions that need to be done first. I don't. Oh, okay. Grass. Sorry.
So
All I see is. Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I just pulled it up, but if you all still have it, Travis, go ahead.
Yeah, so I opened the enforcement order, which says a conservation seed mix should be used in the affected area, and a plan for a physical barrier demarcating the riverfront area beyond which no vegetation shall be removed shall be presented to the Conservation Commission on or before June 28th, 2022. The updated site plan to show the as-built locations of the house should be submitted to the commission on or before June 28th, 2022. And then in the letter that went out with that, it says, submit a plan to the Conservation Commission for a permanent physical barrier using trees, fencing, boulders, etc., to mark the boundaries of the riverfront area beyond which there shall be no vegetation removal, and present it at a public meeting on or before June 28th, 2022.
Why we're here.
So, yep, just to be extremely clear. So we didn't add anything in there about needing to approve it.
No. And it looks like there is also an as-built plan in the file as well.
Yeah, Chris dropped that off.
Okay. Well, I suppose that means they've met all the conditions for the enforcement order at this time, since we didn't add that we needed to approve the plan. So, yeah, I guess.
A vote. Do you motion to close out an enforcement order?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I'm not sure what the next step for that is.
So unusual for an enforcement order to be complied with. It's such a treat to have someone actually
on
come back.
time, even.
They're clearly not practiced.
Very seriously.
I kind of thought we did have to vote to close it, but I guess I'm not really sure, and I'm wondering if maybe that's a question for Mitchell.
I'm not sure offhand. I thought we talked about requiring a new deadline to implement the plan, so I wasn't thinking we'd close it out at this point.
Well,
I mean, that's not clear in the
think-
writing, but
No, I think I think we had talked about having the conditions say that that we would have to approve it, and that as part of the approval process, we would require a certain amount of time, to be added to the plan for implementation.
That you're talking about the approval of the COC.
No, when we did the enforcement order, I think we said that we were gonna for the plan to have like the boulders or whatever, that they were gonna be submitting a plan to do that, and then, but we didn't want to set a deadline for implementation because we didn't know when we were gonna get the plan yet. So we said the implementation of the plan could be part of the plan that we could, when we approved it, could negotiate when that would be. But
So when do you think you'll have these boulders installed? It sounds like you've already done the seeding.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. Chris, who's a builder, he said he would get them and put them in. So I would have to ask him. I don't know how readily available he has them or when he can do it. So I could find that out from him and let you know this week.
Does it make sense to motion, like, just to motion and vote, like, to authorize Birch to accept either photographic or site visit evidence once those boulders are submitted, and issue a letter closing out the enforcement order without setting a specific date?
yeah,
Like that to authorize Mitch to issue a letter closing out the enforcement order once he has verified that the boulders have been installed.
I
yeah.
like that. So I'm sorry, can you remind me what the seed mix was again? That was already spread. You said the seed mix was already spread.
It was a conservation mix. I don't know any more specifics than that. Chris put that in, and I, he showed me where it was, and I saw the seed, but I don't know specifically what kind of conservation mix it was.
Do we want to ask for like a photo of that or the label or something like that, just to show that that was complied with as well?
I think Mitch, would you be able to do that as well?
Yeah, I'm sure Chris still has the bag, so I can ask him for that.
Or an invoice or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess the end goal here is once the enforcement order is closed, then a certificate of compliance. You could apply for a certificate of compliance after that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So.
So take a shot at the motion if
Sure.
we're good. So I'll make a motion to give the conservation agent authority to close out the enforcement order for 123 Verde Drive, pending photographic or just evidence of the remediation of steps put in place, the boulders and the seed mix specifically. I think that's it.
I'll second that.
All right. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll do a roll call vote here. Rachel?
Aye.
Fletcher?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. All right. So yeah, so let Mitch know when those boulders are in, and either submit photos to him or he can come out and take photos, and then we'll get that enforcement order closed out for you.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. So we are moving along here. Next on our agenda is Highland Park and Rocky Ridge Park invasive plant removal. See Nancy here.
Yes, Travis, I'm here.
All right. Welcome.
Thank you for hanging in there, all of you. Long
Thank you
meeting.
for hanging in there. All right, so I assume we have something we can show on the screen for this.
Yeah, I have a map of the two areas, and also there's a request letter. That's probably too long. The map probably would be the most useful thing. If
Yeah, Mitch, can you pull that up?
Sure.
All right, well, while he's pulling that up, if you want to just kind of give us an overview of the project that you're thinking
sure,
of.
great. So I've been concerned, as many of you also have been concerned, about some of the invasive, particularly the shrubs and vines that have that are in Highland Park and the Rocky Ridge and Poet Seed areas. And so what I'm interested in doing is getting permission to remove, particularly, as you've probably noticed, most of those plants tend to coalesce around a parking area where the cars have been bringing in the seeds. And then on the pathways from radiating from those parking areas where people are probably, inadvertently taking those seeds on their feet into the area. Of course, some of the things are bird planted, but I'm seeing most of those invasive shrubs being in those areas around the parking lots and along the road. So what I'm interested in doing is getting permission to remove those so that I can put out a call to people to come and help with that process. So I'm interested in uh, helping people understand why it's an issue, what the particular invasive plants look like, and how to remove them without any kind of herbicide and without disturbing the soil as much as possible. So here's the map is here. Does anybody have any general questions before I jump into the map? Okay, great. So I guess the other thing I'd say is that I've had some experience in removing, particularly burning bush, and I've been very pleasantly surprised to learn how easy it is to kill that shrub. I was so surprised. But I think so what I've experimented with was cutting it off, well, usually in the fall because I can see it, and maybe a couple of feet off the ground. And then in the springtime, there will be a flush of growth, and then coming back and cutting that off so that the photosynthesis can't replenish the roots. And most of the burning bush well, it's probably a sun-loving plant, but it's growing in the shade. So that's the other reason that it's probably dying so easily. So even after like 2 seasons, I'm finding that burning bush is dying. So here's I have 2 rudimentary maps. So one shows the Poet Seat area and the trails that go down to the river, and where the parking lot is, the P there, and so and the actual road up to the Poet Seat, the tower is just about invisible on this map, but I tried to point to the parking lot, and the other arrow is where the tower is. So that's a really visible area, and there's some pretty good sized burning bushes on that area. So in the proposal, so I list sort of a laundry list of the kinds of invasives that I'm seeing, but in terms of focusing on what I'm think is most easily removable, I should say, is, as I say, the burning bush, particularly in this area. But we're keeping our eyes peeled for the other things. On the other map, which maybe you, Mitch, you could, I'm not seeing that map very well. Thank you very much. The other big area is in Highland Park, starting again at that parking lot where the P is, and then which is just south of the pond, and then the main sort of woods road, if you will call that. It's I don't know if it has a name, but that goes out to goes past the stairway that goes up to Sachem's Head, and then sort of curves around steeply when it meets these two huge, enormous old. One's a sugar maple tree, and one is a sycamore, and then the road curves around. And again, that's sort of the major area that I've been looking at and noticing. In that case, not only the burning bush, but particularly around those large trees, which, by the way, have a large number of wildflowers, trillium in particular, and also some toothwort in the springtime. And in that area, there's also a lot of garlic mustard and some barberry and that sort of that kind of shrub. There is some water, if you're familiar with that site, that it's actually draining a vernal pool, which is not so visible on this map. And then it goes down and underneath the power lines. And that's actually where the toothwort is. And that's just to the right of the of those two large trees that I mentioned. There's also a rather interesting area right there, which is covered with vinca, which is a non-native ground cover. But interestingly enough, there's a huge amount of brain cramps here. What am I trying to say? A bloodroot. That's what I'm trying to
Bloodroot
say.
and trillium.
Yeah. Well, a bloodroot in that area is amazing. Just amazing. Seems to not be bothered by the vinca, which is fascinating to see. Fascinating for me to see that.
I guess probably the most important question for us is whether any of the invasive removal will be happening within a wetland resource or if it's all just near wetlands.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned that there is this drainage area where the toothwort is, and that has some other shrubs. So having run into this in the past, I recognize there could be a whole other process that I have to go through for that particular area.
Nancy, thank you so much for taking this enormous challenge on. I live right at the base of Poet Seat, at the northern end, and I've been seeing so much Oriental bittersweet, Asian bittersweet, just creeping up from the yard waste on Park Street. It's just coming up the hill, and it's really breaking my heart. And this is really great. I'm really grateful. As Travis just alluded to, we kind of really only have jurisdiction over the Wetlands Protection Act areas, the wetlands and the buffer zones. But I do know there are many rare species mapped all along the ridge. And so it's within the Mass Endangered Species Act jurisdiction as well. And I bet Heritage would be able to give you some kind of helping hand as well. I can't speak for them, but I'm sure they can assist you in some way. And I'm sure they can set you up with some sort of liaison in some way. outside of our jurisdiction. I don't know if that's a conservation area that we have control over, Travis, but aside from the jurisdictional areas, that's the best I can think of.
Yeah, I think everything shown here is not on conservation land controlled by the Conservation Commission.
Gotcha.
And I did want to mention, I don't know, Mitch, can I share my screen? So just like kind of going back to like how we deal with invasive removals and permitting them. I found this presentation that was like a lunch and learn that MACC did, and it's really long, but then it kind of goes through like the different methods for invasive removal and what the permitting requirements generally are. And, of course, it says any work within a jurisdictional wetland must be permitted by DEP, which would be either an RDA or an NOI. And then it goes through like level 1 would be like manual removal, hand pulling, mowing, things like that. And then their recommendation for that is just getting approval from the Conservation Commission for volunteer work days, essentially. And then level 2, they say, that could even be like some herbicide. Well, it all says herbicide, and then it says file an RDA or NOI with Conservation Commission, and you could do an ecological restoration limited project, and then it goes up from there. Level 3, it'll be like a huge project. So, I guess I just wanted to bring that up because I was, thinking back to the Japanese knotweed project, and I kind of after the fact thought like, well, maybe we should have just required like an RDA at the most, like if all they're doing is just like hand cutting and stuff. But it also depends on the scale of the project. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. So
that looks like a very useful PowerPoint. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's like 70 pages, 70 slides.
70 pages. But if you could send me the link, I'd appreciate it. Sounds daunting, but
I'll just mention that just because it just flipped through in your slides that I have seen the buckthorn bags work really effectively with buckthorn, and they're only marketed and kind of geared toward buckthorn, but I am currently working on a project that we're trying them on multiflora rose and Japanese barberry as well. So I can I need to by next year this time I'll know whether they work for those as well.
That'd be great. Yeah.
For non-herbicide method. They do require some monitoring though, because the bags need to be tracked and removed.
I guess one of the things that I should have mentioned is that I have met with the rec commission rather, and I do have a letter of support from them to work in these areas. But I certainly, any advice, help, support would be greatly appreciated. So thank you for bringing these other topics forward, and thanks, Kristen, for I don't want to hear about all that, that Oriental bittersweet, but thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and I
It's
just
an
think
area
that
I have not looked at.
I know, and I know those trees you're talking about at that bend over by Highland, they're amazing. I love those trees. They're the highlight of that whole walk. But I do think that it would be wise to consult with Heritage just because there are a number of rare plants. There are a number of rare plants. I think it's like 17 or something on the
Really?
ridge.
Oh.
It's a lot. So they may have comments on protocols that it's outside of our jurisdiction. So We, under the Wetlands Protection Act, only regulate rare wildlife, so it'd be worth talking with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. I'll check in with that. I'd be interested in knowing what that list is. So given that this is not technically your property,
Yeah.
what actually, what would your role be in the case of, whatever?
Yeah,
in
I guess
moving forward.
I guess my thought was, with those slides that we were looking at, and basically it was saying if someone's just doing like hand pulling, you could just like give permission. And while we don't necessarily have to give permission because it's not on our property, uh, if I mean I kind of feel like we could do like a letter of support or something so that it's like on record that we knew that this was happening. But I think if there are plants in a wetland area, I think that would require an RDA, so that it would actually be permitted. I don't know if anyone else has any other thoughts, but
No, I was just going to say it does
Like-
look like there's some isolated wetlands there, and definitely what was probably an intermittent stream, not a perennial, but yeah, right off of Bears Den Road. That blue trail at the bottom of the map you made, Nancy, there's definitely I see water there often kind of crossing the trail, but I also see it dry. So, but yeah, I think, Travis, do you think just for within a resource area or in a buffer as well, or?
I mean, I think we could require an RDA.
I'm not saying we should. I just wanted to be clear. More so when you're in the resource area itself.
Yeah, I mean, obviously those slides aren't like the definition of what you have to do, but it did say like if it's in a resource area, it must be permitted.
And under the bylaw, even if it's an intermittent stream.
Technically, that's riverfront area, I guess.
Yeah, so I think just if you're near wet BVW or whatever, or I'm sorry, isolated wetland in this case, yeah, consider, an RDA would probably be most appropriate, but otherwise you could definitely count on our support, I think, yeah, I don't know do we have any advice for Nancy on, because I think that's under control of Parks and Rec, right, Travis?
Yeah.
The
They give
property
their
is, yes.
blessing.
Mhm. So
Yeah.
if I had to go through the RDA process, would I go through directly to the state, or would I go through you guys, or how would I do that? Since
That would go through
it's not your
through
property.
us. That would be
That would go through you. Okay.
yeah, it would be just like the one you did for taking down the trees in your
For my
backyard.
backyard. Okay.
So it's a free to submit an RDA. No filing fee.
Okay.
So at least you've done one. So maybe
I know,
you got a
I
head
paid
start.
arms.
I know.
The thought of, even though it really wasn't that difficult, somehow they're really daunting for me.
Well, we do have a paid staff to assist
Oh,
people
there's
as
an
needed.
idea.
So
Maybe Mitch can hold my hand while I fill out
reach out to Mitch.
something.
Yeah, so I guess if you are planning on removing some like that's in a wet area, I would say that would be the process.
Yeah, if we're gonna save those toothworts, we need to get rid of some of the barbarian stuff. So
Okay,
I guess that's my answer.
I guess so.
Well, and actually, another area is which you're probably very familiar with, is the parking lot itself was redone a couple of years ago, and it had and it slopes down to a damp area, and there's a huge amount of bad stuff growing there now because of all that new soil that was brought in. So, I mean, some of it, I can't imagine doing anything to the goutweed. It's just hopeless. But certainly the garlic mustard can be kept under control pretty easily. So I don't know.
Yeah, I
guess
think we actually
that's-
have an open, I think we have like an open project there that we haven't closed out, and we talked about how we need to like re-inspect it. I don't remember if that was this year or next year.
Well, I noticed the erosion control materials have been removed, but there was a lot of plantings along there. And
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know what that process is, but
Yeah, I think we needed to inspect to see if the plantings took.
okay.
So, Rachel, it looked like you were talking, but you're muted.
I just realized I was muted. I think there's actually still some wetland flags visible there. So Nancy, in that area, you can probably see like down to the bank, you can see the actual edge of the wetland flagged, and see where you can remove, like hand pull garlic mustard or whatever, because that area was delineated as part of that planting project. I don't know if all the flags are still there, but I know that there's some that are still visible. That would show the edge of bank.
But I would need permission for anything that's in, what is it, 50 feet from that wet-ish area? Or
Well, technically the buffer area is 100 feet.
100 feet, okay.
But
There's the resource area.
That's just from us.
That we can give permission for that. I think it's within the resource area itself.
Oh, I see what you're saying, because you already have permission for that whole project. Okay. So I would just need would I need to tell you more than what I'm telling you right this minute in order to pull that garlic mustard or not?
Stuff by the parking lot edge.
Yeah.
I think so.
I mean, we're sort of, interpreting that slide deck and whatnot this moment as well. And I guess, I don't know, someone else, please correct me, but I think it's more so if you're in a very obviously wet area immediately in the area, the resource area itself, I think we'd be more comfortable with an RDA. If you're in the buffer zone to such an area, then maybe we'd like to hear about the project for sure. You seem to bring that to us anyway, but maybe it's something we could do administratively. That's my take so far, but someone correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm okay with that as well. I would just kind of reiterate that, if it is in priority habitat for rare plants, that you also just consult with natural heritage. I'm sure you understand what garlic mustard looks like, and you're not going to accidentally pull some rare plant, and you know what you're talking about. But, just crossing T's. You're here tonight, you're presenting this project. Obviously, you're crossing T's and dotting I's. So if that's, something that you want to pursue, I would recommend talking with them as well.
Okay.
For upland stuff.
Thank you. So is there anything more? Sounds like a thing that you might do immediately or in the near would just a general letter of support. And then I could obviously need to reach out to Heritage and need to fill out some RDA stuff, and I can work with Mitch on some of those details. Sounds like that a good summary of where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone if people would be comfortable just like, you know, I mean, I'm even thinking you just like make a motion to, uh, you know,
Administrative approval or?
approve or just like approve any, hand pulling um, of invasive species in the areas presented, uh, as long as they're not in a wetland uh, or other resource area, which would require an RDA.
I'm okay with that, but again, I just want to reiterate that if it's in rare plant habitat,
Well,
it's not our jurisdiction. So how can we really opine on that?
yeah.
You know,
Well, we could say that too, I guess,
I'm okay with that
as
then.
long as they're okay with it too.
Yeah, NHESP first step, and then what we said stands for us. Yeah, I mean, that works for me. I do have a preference just for, hearing from Nancy here at the meetings, or just getting documentation of the plans, and maybe even if you're doing it sort of how it went, just so we have a record kind of what's been done, and maybe that can, if there's a precedent set over time with these activities, then maybe we can sort of streamline this process, and we can be a little more comfortable with saying, here's we're comfortable with the agent giving administrative approval. You just reach out to them, and you take less time to come to us in certain situations. It's kind of what we're doing now, but yeah, if we have sort of precedent set and we see a pattern, then it makes it easier for us to just for things to just move more smoothly in the future.
Do you
Is there
mean
any
kind of
documentation?
like an annual invasive species removal plan that could be approved based on administrative approval, or like what do you, I mean,
I wasn't thinking that sort of, I wasn't thinking that regular of a thing, unless if Nancy had that plan, great. But I just meant
every
like
5 years?
if there's an event. Are you talking about the approval part? Or I'm just saying like it would be great to start off with events being sort of like, okay, here's the plan for how this is going to go, and then here's how it went, and here's the area we treated, so to speak.
Okay, so some sort of like document saying this is our protocol, and then some sort of reporting requirement by the end of the year kind of thing.
A loose requirement, yeah, just some type of information on sort of plan, and then how it actually went, and what the area that was treated. Again, just to inform us for future, because this comes up and we're sort of it's new to us, so to speak. So once this happens and we have some sense of how it plays out, I think it'd be helpful to have that information going forward.
I love that idea. I think that's great.
So is there anything we want to do tonight?
Motion to approve the hand removal of invasive species in accordance with the plan that Nancy submitted outside of resource areas in the park, and with a request to share the results, I guess annually at the end of the growing season.
And pending heritage approval if it's in priority habitat.
Pending NHESP approval if it's in priority habitat.
Second that.
Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, well, let's do a roll call vote. Kristen,
Aye.
Rachel,
I
Fletcher.
Aye.
All right, and I'm also an aye. So, got approval for the non-wetland
Thank you
areas.
so much. Thank you. I can see.
Pending those things.
Thank you for giving me my life's work.
Oh, thank you for caring and taking the initiative.
Yeah.
No, we need to get other people involved who are younger.
Yes, thank you so much.
So thank you so much for your work and your support.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, and feel free to reach out to Mitch if you want some assistance with filling out an RDA.
I will. Thank you so much.
All right.
Hope you're getting close to the end of your agenda.
We still got some more, but we'll get there.
Well, I guess I will bid you good night.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. All right. So next on our agenda is request for certificate of compliance 1 Birch Street.
And that's me, Hasso Ewing.
That's him. All right. Thanks for sticking with us this long.
I'm also later on in the agenda, and I was just wondering if I need to be there for that, because I'm not really sure what that one's for.
Oh. Let me get back to the agenda.
Yeah,
Oh, that's just all of the active orders of conditions, in case we have any updates on them.
okay. So I don't need to be there for that one.
No.
Okay.
So Mitch, do you have a request for a certificate of compliance
Yeah,
to share?
sure.
Okay. So we have the form. It looked like you had site visit photos too.
Yeah, should I share those now?
Sure. Yeah, and then maybe Hasso, if you could just like walk us through how the site is now compared to how it was, I guess.
Okay. So it was a pretty dilapidated property, partially kind of think abandoned. There was foundation work that needed to be done. Porches were falling off. And we had all the porches rebuilt. And in the back here is where the wetland area is.
This is where the deck was removed.
That porch. Oh yeah, the deck was removed. Right, there was a deck hanging out over. I forgot all about that. Yep. So everything has been was seeded and straw put down, and it's all come back in with grass.
And this is the corner where the foundation was repaired.
Yep. That's, you can see the new foundation underneath the green shingles. It's all stabilized.
That seemed like the main things.
Was that a question for me? It was kind of broken up. I wasn't sure.
No, that just seemed like that was the two main things, was the deck and the foundation to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it actually, I mean, when you're talking about the 100-foot, it goes all the way up to the street, but the 25-foot is in the back here. It's all garlic, mustard, and bamboo, and or knotweed, and bloodroot, tons of bloodroot, oddly enough.
It looks like the soil has been stabilized with vegetation. If vegetation is growing in where you have the straw mulch put down. It looks like there's like some crushed stone around the foundation in this photo that's shown. Is that going to stay that way?
Yep.
Okay.
That's actually fairly steep. It doesn't show so much in the photograph, but that's pretty steep right there.
Okay. So it's under current conditions, it's stabilized and there's no rilling or gullying on the slopes. It's vegetated and stable.
Yeah. No gullying at all. It's been, yeah, no, it's great.
I was just gonna check if the order of conditions had any conditions that are or yeah in perpetuity.
It looks like, yeah, there's prohibition on dumping,
Yeah.
additional alteration, mowing, vegetation management. This is within the wetlands.
Mhm. So I guess I just wanted to point that out because, as it says at the top, these shall be included as continuing conditions in perpetuity on the certificate of compliance.
Is that within the 25 foot?
Well, each of these it kind of depends. The first one says no dumping into the wetland or stream or body of water.
Right, that's no problem.
Yeah, the second one is no additional alterations of area under our jurisdiction without, another without another NOI or RDA or something.
Right.
No mowing or vegetation management within the wetlands. Stabilized slopes must be maintained as stabilized.
Yep.
It does say no.
Pesticides, herbicide.
Yeah, shall not be used within the 100-foot buffer zone.
Pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, fertilizer. Okay.
Only non-invasive plant species may be planted on site within the resource areas, so within the wetlands or the buffer zone.
The 100-foot buffer zone?
Yep.
Okay, well, that seems like a difficult thing to fulfill, given the fact that the whole property is within that area. And in visiting the property, I think Mitch would recognize that there's a upper level area with a concrete 4-foot wall there where the yard area is, and then it drops down into where the wetland area is. So up in the upper area is really the only yard that's on the property that's usable for gardens or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it says non-invasive plant species may be planted on site within the buffer
Oh,
zone.
okay, okay.
That part's not saying it has to be native. Just
okay, all right, yeah.
don't
okay,
plant
that's
any
fine.
Japanese knotweed in there.
Oh, no. I'm totally down with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Then it says seed mixes shall be 100% non-native, 100% native, non-invasive. So that would be different than plantings, though.
Okay.
And then it just has continued monitoring and management of non-native and/or invasive plant species on site shall be conducted to prevent the spread of non-native and/or invasive plant species within the project area.
Well, the whole project area is non-native invasive species. It's all garlic mustard or knotweed or jewelweed or and there's a little bit of euonymus in there, there's a little bit of barberry in there, and I'm flipping out the little bits that I can get when I can. But to take out all the garlic mustard, to take out all of that stuff would be to lay all the soil bare. And I think my feeling would be that's even more of a impact on the wetland.
Yeah, well, this says within the project area, so I think it would just be like where your
work was done.
Where the work was done.
Okay,
Make sure
that's not a
that
problem.
invasives don't pop up there.
I will just mention that jewelweed is a native plant, Impatiens capensis.
Oh, I thought it was a naturalized non-native.
Maybe we could share information on that later. I don't know what the non-native plant species monitoring and management condition involves in terms of reporting. It doesn't
I don't think
really.
it involves any.
I
Okay.
don't think it involves them. I think there's two species of, it's also my understanding that jewelweed is native and there's two different species of it, one with orange flowers and one with yellow flowers. But both of the yellow flower is a more rarer species, but both of them are native. That's my understanding.
Oh, that's good to know. At least there's some native stuff there.
Yeah, I don't know, Mitch, do we have like a pamphlet on that we could share with applicants that's nice and easy to read and accessible?
Probably. I'd have to check.
That'd be great. If you find something, let me know.
Okay, look around.
Although I will say, Hasser, you seem very knowledgeable.
Yeah, I have a pretty good idea of these plants and how to manage them.
Yeah.
Does anyone need to see maybe like the plan for the project, or we've looked at this a number of times recently, it seems like. So I guess any motion to issue a certificate of compliance should specify that those conditions in perpetuity will be on the certificate of compliance also as ongoing conditions.
I'll motion to issue a certificate of compliance with the special conditions in perpetuity from the order of conditions.
I will second that. I've been very slow to make first motions tonight because I keep having to go back to the agenda to look at the addresses. Sorry, guys.
Oh, I just
Thank
skip
you.
it.
Thank you. I
For
will
one
second
Birch
that.
Street. I know the address here.
One
This one
Birch.
by heart. It's so easy.
It's an easy one. All right. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Rachel,
Aye.
Kristen,
Hi.
Fletcher,
Aye.
and I am also an aye. So we will issue a certificate of compliance.
Great. Thank you very much.
That
All right,
property
thank
is so different than it was. Hasso, thank you for making that little corner feel loved and cared for,
Isn't it amazing?
not abandoned.
Yeah, I know. It's I wish it was down there more often actually, but it's such a difference from the way it was. The neighborhood seems very happy too.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
All right, thank
All
you.
right. Yeah. Have a good night.
Carry on.
Okay. So next on our agenda is Greenfield Wetlands Protection Ordinance Review, Intermittent Streams. I'm going to suggest that we hold off on that.
Yes, I was just gonna suggest how about a 5-minute bathroom break at the least, but
Oh, sure.
either way,
Uh,
I mean, whatever. I'm okay to push it off a whole another 2 weeks, but I need a 5-minute break.
All right. If
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Travis.
okay. Well, we do have a couple of things to discuss, so I think we can. If there are no objections, we'll have a 5-minute break. Come back
Be
at
fast.
2.
Okay.
Okay. I wish I would have seen this turtle reaction thing when we were talking about a turtle plan.
Well, how did you get that up there?
I don't know. At the bottom of my screen, right beside raise hand, there's reactions. Apparently, the turtle means slow down.
I only see hands in different shades.
Oh, mine's like a separate button. There's like raise hand, and then there's a button right beside that that says, "Oh,
Oh
Fletcher
my
found me."
God. Oh wait, no.
So you click on it once, it changes.
That is fire. And I'm clapping at how cool that is.
Have your fun. We're going to Zoom.
I know.
Yeah, we got to get it out.
Let's party while we can.
All right. I guess I'll call us back to order here at 9:04. Only 2 minutes late. That's okay. So what I was saying right before right before our break was the intermittent streams and the Wetlands Protection Ordinance review. I'm not gonna lie, I haven't looked into it since our last meeting, and I'm guessing other people probably haven't either. But
I think it's reasonable to carry over.
yeah, okay, we'll carry that one over to the next meeting then. I might carry that one on a while. Then the next item is possible return to in-person meetings.
Yeah, so I read that
Go ahead.
the House passed a budget with it included, that we can be flexible on that, and then the Senate's budget didn't include it, and they have to work it out between them. I don't know if that means in the meantime we have flexibility or not. Maybe someone has more up-to-date info. Or Mitch, did you hear anything on
I
that?
asked Eric, and he basically said it wasn't much of a choice that we have to be in person.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true because some towns are doing hybrid, and some towns are still doing remote, and some towns have been in person since the beginning of COVID, like Hamden. So I don't. Does the city have the ability to issue our own kind of order aside from the governor's virtual meeting law extension expires on July 15th, right? Does the city of Greenfield have any ability to branch off and do our own thing, or are we held to the governor's order, or can we do a hybrid and make our own path?
So my understanding is that the order from the governor was like an amendment on the open meeting law. So I think once it goes back, then we no longer have the option to do fully remote per open meeting law. But even before COVID, there was the option to where if you had a quorum in person, other people could join remotely. You just had to make sure at least a quorum was present in person. So that was always an option before. And so my understanding is that that would be the only option for a remote or a hybrid situation going forward.
Let me ask this. Do we have the technology to do hybrid?
We do in at least one room in City Hall, and it works really well. I've done CPC meetings in that room, and they have like a camera and it shows like the people in the room. It's like a fisheye kind of shows everybody and speakers and microphones.
Would it have a way to share documents?
Yep. So it shows for the people who are in the in-person part, you like have a computer connected to it, and then so it'll show your screen on the computer and it'll show the video as like two separate things. So unfortunately, I looked at like the regular calendar, at like the calendar of meetings, and our first meeting of the month would conflict with another meeting that's already using that room, but our second meeting of the month would not conflict with anyone else.
Would we be able to bring our own laptops? So oftentimes we have an application and, Fletcher or Rachel or I or whoever will Google the site and look at Mass Mapper and see if there are any other sensitive resource areas that are mapped in there, like a cold water fisheries habitat or whatever. Or look at older ortho photos. I don't even know what. Is that something we're still going to be able to do? Like, we'll be able to have our own laptops and stuff?
Yeah, I think we can do that in a meeting. And I mean, if we were using that, the system that the city has set up, like whoever is running that computer that's connected could, load up if you wanted to share it with everyone.
Okay.
But I mean, even when we were just doing in-person meetings, I was bringing my laptop.
But we can still do a share if we're doing a hybrid. We can still, because it's
Yeah.
all going to be a call-in plus live
Yeah.
meeting. So we could still do a screen share if it's relevant to the discussion and have it cast on the screen.
Yeah.
Great.
And they have like a big screen in that room that
If we have that room, we can.
if we have that room. I think there's only one room, and so there's probably going to be a lot of competition for that.
I was told that there's one in the John Zahn as well, but I haven't verified that in person. But
Yeah, I
or maybe they were making one in there. I'm not sure.
Okay.
What do we do if we don't have that room? Are we virtual or are we in town hall with no electronic?
I think we're back in Sanderson.
Yep, Sanderson. Kristen's never been to our
Oh,
in-person
right.
meetings. But yeah, we were at 2020 Sanderson Street. I think that's the address. Yeah, I mean, I guess we could look into like the options for if there's if there's a quorum of us in person, is there a way for someone to reasonably remote into the meeting? That might be what we need to figure out. Like if we are in Sanderson Street, I'm not sure we have the technology. Like we had talked about getting like a projector maybe or
Yeah, so I did a quick little sort of inventory of the infrastructure there, and there's at least a hard Ethernet connection and space for I don't remember if there's a screen that exists or if there's definitely space for one there. But I haven't had any luck getting response from Greenfield IT, so I don't know what. My question being like, is there equipment that we could bring in to that room to use? And I haven't ever received a response on that, so that's not much help. But in theory, the connectivity is there. So
I think the biggest issue is with the applicants. It's not with the commissioners, it's with the applicants. And, whether or not we can all be present in an in-person meeting, in my mind, isn't as serious of an issue as just being able to reach as many applicants. And going virtual has helped, I think, a lot with our community and our application process, and I don't want that to change. So I don't know what our technological needs and deficiencies are.
I mean, essentially what we would need is a camera so that someone could see the meeting and a microphone that's good enough to like pick up everyone's voices at the meeting.
Which I've heard is the owl, for what that's worth.
yeah, I did a pretty, maybe a little bit, what's the word? Maybe overkill of like a little write up on what we would need, like foregoing an owl system just in general, and that as far as like if you really want to do it reasonably well, you need like a mixing device essentially, so that you have like multiple audio streams coming in that is then audible to people who are calling in or who are remote rather. Yeah, so that's in, I think it's in the drive, but if not, I'll find it. But like Travis here, we might be able to sort of get it done with a microphone that in the table that picks our voices up, but and also maybe we could have people step up sort of from the audience, and then the camera. I guess as long as I don't know if it would have to face just us or the audience as well, but let's say we could get away with just a camera, and then sharing our screen over like WebEx or Zoom. In theory, that could work, but I just anticipate there being like audio issues.
Yeah.
As far as like being able to clearly hear people, and we need a pretty decent webcam, and then also because the people in the audience would need to be able to see remote people. So if a remote applicant was present, we would need a screen to show that to the audience as well.
And us.
Right, and us, yeah. Which the way Sanderson's laid out is kind of, and where we usually sit is sort of difficult because we're in a little cove, and the other people are sitting. Well, the layout, but I mean, we could just reorganize that. It's all doable. It's just yeah, sort of. It's like, what can we get away with as far as minimal technology goes, and I think it can be challenging down at the lower levels because of the need to hear multiple audio streams and see have everyone see that input.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, if it's something that we think, I guess we still kind of need an answer though. We're fairly sure we need to go back to in person after the 15th, or we
Well,
need 100%.
I think unless something does pass, that
Right.
something would have to be like fully passed and signed by the governor.
Right.
Otherwise,
There is a letter of support on the MACC website that they sent, but a month ago, like June 1st, asking for the passage of a act updating the open meeting law to support either virtual or in-person meetings in perpetuity, but it doesn't, I don't see in their news section anything else after the submission of that letter, so I assume that if it had been passed, it would be announced.
This is the most sort of specific info I see, which is just that on May 25th, Senate passed a state budget which included remote municipal meetings through December 15th, 2023. However, the House version of the state budget did not include a remote meeting extension. So the House and the Senate must work out a compromise bill. And then they say, Massachusetts needs a permanent fix for this, so please. Yeah, I think that's probably what Rachel was just in there. But I don't know if that means, like, I don't know how fast they'll come to some. I assume the Senate isn't going to push back against that, but I don't know how quickly they work out their compromise.
It says that the reporting date was on the bill, like the official site. It says current here. I'll share. Hold on. This is what I found.
Don't municipalities kind of trump state regulations, just like state regulations trump federal regulations? We get stronger and stronger as we get smaller and smaller.
I think we can have regulations that are more stringent than the state, but I think this is more like the open meeting law requirement is that you have to have
It's not
at least
it's
a
not
quorum in
jurisdictional
person.
for us. It's part of how we work within that system, but it's not a jurisdictional matter, which we could potentially pass a bylaw to.
Let me ask around with my coworkers and see what they're all seeing with other commissions, because I'm on an agenda on the 15th and it's virtual. I don't have anything scheduled further than that right now, but let me just see what other commissions are doing, and if it's relevant, get back to us.
Maybe they're getting in their last virtual one right on the
Or
last
maybe
day.
they're doing like I don't know, maybe they have like an official town vote. I don't know. I have no idea how that process will work, but let me ask around and see if anybody I work with knows anything about that. Because it would be really nice. I mean, for applicants in particular, it's really nice to not have to travel, especially if you're coming from far.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is all that I found, which is that that they extended their own deadline to pass this. The House extended their own deadline to pass this to Thursday, June 30th. So they still, it
The
still,
second time.
still might pass.
Yeah, and I guess we'll
2
know,
days.
like our next meeting is before the 15th, so it's
Yeah, our
March
next
12th,
meeting.
so hopefully by then we would know for the following meeting. But yeah.
So just
I actually had a related question that I was planning to just tack on to the end of the meeting, but maybe this is an example where it is relevant, I think, for commissioners. Kristen, I think the charter, our Greenfield Conservation Commission charter states that if a commissioner misses 3 meetings in a row, they lose their seat on the commission. And so my soon to be very relevant question is whether there are any exceptions to that for maternity leave, because if meetings are coming back for in-person meetings and I need to show up in person, I may need to miss more than 3 meetings in a row since I'm going to have a kid starting at some point.
Yay! Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's so exciting.
But that is an example where, like, if we were able to have a hybrid section, like, I would be a lot more able to come back to meetings in person probably and participate remotely sooner. And also, I'd like to know if there's a family leave or a maternity leave like exception to that 3 meeting rule. I know for the state there's 12 weeks paid family leave, so that's what I'm getting from work. And I think that, yeah, I would be more inclined and have more flexibility to be able to participate at the meetings if I could do some of them remotely, because I just have no idea otherwise.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be able to come back after 3 meetings in person.
Point for hybrid.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean,
hybrid.
If there is just that one room in City Hall where you can do a hybrid, even if there was a conflict on one of our meetings, we could do like 1 meeting a month hybrid, 1 meeting in person. And then like if it was more convenient for them to come to the hybrid one, we could schedule them for that meeting. And that could be like the easy route for now, like if we have to.
Let me ask this. If it seems like a long-term persistent constraint with the schedule, would it be better to switch our meeting day, or is that too complicated and we should just keep our meeting day and flip-flop back and forth between rooms?
Our meeting day, I can't remember if our meeting is in the rules and regulations of the Conservation Commission. It says that our meeting shall be on the 2nd and 4th Tuesday evenings of the month. So I think we'd have to update the rules and regulations, which would require City Council to approve it, I believe.
So how long would that process take? Just trying to map out all the alternatives and get an idea of the big picture.
Yeah.
Wow, an oversight or somebody. There's conservation commissions that flip-flop their meeting days all the time.
Well, they might not have it in their rules and regulations.
That's what I'm saying. Who put that in there? Bad job.
Also, I will add that about the like missing 3 meetings, it just says following 3 unexplained consecutive absences from scheduled meetings, the absent Conservation Commission member will be contacted by the chair to determine the intention of that member regarding future membership.
So you've already explained it. You're in the clear.
Great.
Yeah, and it just says
When I can. And
yeah.
I'll let you guys know when I start my leave of absence.
All right. Yeah, then it just says like if attendance becomes problematic to the smooth working of the commission, the chair will address the issue with the member.
Okay.
That's for slackers, not people who are starting their families.
Yeah, it says unexplained.
Unexplained. Okay. It will be explained.
So exciting. I'm so happy for
Congratulations.
Yeah, big changes.
you. Yeah.
Again.
How do you keep
Gotta
doing
use-
that so fast? I don't even remember the freaking button is.
Gotta use those up.
Thanks,
Use
Travis.
them up before we go to Zoom. All right. Should we get back to our agenda? See if there's anything else.
So I guess if we go, I think that the like I would be totally open to a once a month hybrid, once a month in person, if that seems like the best solution. Like if that's the closest we can get to hybrid meetings all the time, I think it would be preferable to flip-flop rooms and to have one meeting a month be accessible remotely as a hybrid meeting than to have all of our just flip and back to entirely in-person meetings all of the time with no remote access at all. So that's just my feeling. I know it's a little bit of an additional logistical whatever. I also don't think that I don't know how long that like would persist. Like maybe I don't know what the other group is. Like it seems like I doubt that the council would not approve a request to change our time for meeting if it allowed us to have more accessible meetings for everybody. So I just don't know what the process for that is. Like changing our rules and regulations, like finding another meeting time where that room happens to be empty now, and then like how long it will take to get on the agenda and get it all approved. If it's worth, but I think in the meantime, I would be happy to do a flip-flop each month.
I will just say that for me, my biggest swaying feeling is reducing the need for paper copies, and the in-person meetings generally required several paper copies for all the commissioners. They had to have the 24 by 36-inch plans, and they did the old-fashioned presentations on the poster boards.
Yeah,
and they had to drive, if the consultants were representing an applicant, maybe several hours across the state, spend 5 hours of their time billing their applicant client, whereas virtual, everything's electronic. We don't need 7 copies of an NOI. That's maybe sometimes 150 pages long, and we don't need 7 copies of 24 by 36-inch plans, and they don't need to bring in their poster board and present it on a 24 by 36-inch plotted plan. And that I really like. And if there's a way we can do this flip-flop plan that Rachel just talked about, or a hybrid plan that doesn't involve so much paper waste and consultants and applicants to drive from across the state if they don't have to, then I really support that.
Here's an interesting thought. So I know that the Wayland, obviously this is Eastern Mass and their resources are probably very different, but the Wayland Conservation Commission used commission funds to buy tablets for each of their commissioners so that each commissioner has a tablet at the meeting that they are looking at all of the documents. And so they've been able to waive all of their paper resources that way. So
I like that.
How long that would take, or if we could, if that
You
was,
still need to show it to the
there
audience.
were 5 tablets that were available for us at the meetings, that we had the copies digitally on, then it wouldn't matter whether we were hybrid or remote, and we could just continue to require all digital submission.
I love that.
Don't we
And
still need to show it to the attendees?
Mhm.
Someone brings
You
a,
still need to have a projector, like a screen for projecting. So
oh, I
they
see.
have
In the case that we couldn't see it.
just a
Right.
screen on a cart that's stored in the Conservation Commission room, and then they wheel it out into the meeting room, so that it's displayed for the attendees.
Got it.
my only suggestion is this day and age, let's try to think green, be green, you know,
By used?
exactly.
Yeah. All
Buy
for
some
it.
used tablets for the
Buy
commission.
some used tablets. Yeah.
Mhm.
All they need is browser like capacity. Just get on the
Very
internet.
cheap.
All
Very
just
cheap.
get on the
For
drive.
that.
Well, I guess at this point, is there anything for someone to like look into before our next meeting? Like, I feel like maybe we shouldn't do too much work right now because they could pass this and we might be able to just keep doing remote indefinitely anyway. So, you know.
I will ask around. I just put a tickler on my calendar for tomorrow to ask around my coworkers and see if anybody's heard of anything in other commissions in other towns. And I will let you guys know if I hear anything.
Okay. And then I guess we can discuss at our next meeting.
I still have the write-up and some lines out to people for all the tech if we did want to actually try to turn Sanderson into that. So that's kind of ready to go if we do need to go that route. But yeah, like I'm just curious, did the OWL system do that it had a speaker for people that were remotely talking so that everybody
Yeah.
could hear it? Or
Yeah, and I'm not even sure if it is an owl. I didn't look at
okay.
like branding, but there's like a table and there are two microphones like it's on either end of the table kind of, and then yeah, there's a screen and there's a speaker so you can hear, you know, the people who are remote too. So it's a really nice setup. I've had a couple meetings in there. So
That's how it was when I was in Hamden, and they were doing in-person meetings all through COVID. And they said that the OWL speaker system was the only system that actually functioned. And they had like two long tables with many people in the room. And it seemed to work well for the hybrid.
Would it make sense to kind of preemptively, Mitch, this might be sort of fall under your responsibility, but just like book that room for the first meeting of the month, for our first meeting of the month through the end of the year now, and we can always I assume that canceling it is easier than if we wait until our next meeting and then they don't pass this, and then we go, like it might be booked so that it's not available to us at all.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Get that resource while it's available.
Yeah, good.
Swoop in
Look into
there.
that.
I will say that the CPC, I think we were just booking it like one meeting at a time, like deciding at one meeting, like, oh, we're going to be there next meeting. And so then the
But it
staff
sounded
member.
like when you said, Travis, it sounded like you said that there is a group that would make it possible for us to only have a meeting there. So it sounds like other groups are booking monthly meetings like out further.
Yeah. It did show on the calendar. It was like, it was some commission or committee or something that it looks like they've just changed their regular schedule to be in that room. And they could have been in that room before. It was a hybrid room too. I'm not sure. But it just, if you look at the city calendar, it has it recurring on the second Tuesday of the month at like 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. or I don't know. There was some times where it like overlapped with us. So.
Well, if they've done that though, like working ahead, I think it would probably be like, it would be better for us to just do that through the rest of the year also upfront rather than doing it each meeting at a time, because that also allows us to say something or be clear in meetings that we have a rhythm That
Mhm.
makes it a lot less confusing if we know that, if we can say that second Tuesdays of the month we're here and fourth Tuesdays of the month we're somewhere else, and one of those two meetings is always accessible
Yeah.
remotely.
Yeah. All right. So Mitch, you can book that for us. I think it's the fourth Tuesday, I think is what was available at our normal meeting times. Um, but maybe you can check out the calendar. Maybe the other people canceled and we can use it then too. I don't know. All right. Anything else on the in-person meetings? Okay, so next on the agenda is enforcement updates. I guess we kind of had one enforcement update already with the enforcement order. Mitch, is there anything else that you're aware of?
No, there's no updates. I had kind of a other business like within last 48 hours kind of thing.
Oh, sure.
I've just been talking to Haso about she has a dead tree and a failing tree that she wanted to cut down. She feels like it's an emergency, so we've been kind of going through that emergency certification process. Seems like the best way to get them down quickly. So I went out there and I just looked at them. She said a tree company recommended that they were cut down. So I signed off on that and I just needed that ratified.
Okay.
So like administrative approval?
I'm not sure what
I
that
think,
is.
yeah, I think there's like I'm
Emergency
trying to remember.
certification form.
Yeah, I was trying to
Emergency
remember.
certification.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to remember where that process is laid out, like where it spells that out. But yeah, I think the agent can approve something if it's an emergency, and then we ratify it later.
A motion to ratify the emergency certification for the removal of trees at 1 Birch Street.
Second that.
All right, any further discussion? Right, roll call vote. Rachel,
Aye.
Fletcher,
Aye.
Kristen.
Hi.
I'm also an aye. All right, so that is ratified. Yeah, when we first started doing remote meetings, I missed the part in the governor's orders where it said you can do remote meetings, but all votes have to be roll call votes in remote meetings. So now we have to do that.
I think you did. Wasn't John still chair? John was chair when we started doing remote
Yeah, I
meetings.
think so.
Yeah. So that was he set up the system of lazy voting.
Yeah.
So you're just the
Don't
one that
blame
caused
me.
the error there.
Don't blame me. I was just following in his footsteps.
Yeah, you didn't establish that.
I'm too much of a goody two shoes though, now that I know.
That's why we love you as chair, Travis.
Oh yeah.
Why we love that you're our chair.
I actually the chair of the CPC resigned, and I was made chair of the CPC as well for the remainder of the
surprised.
fiscal year.
Yeah.
For the remainder of the fiscal year. So at our next meeting in July, then we're gonna vote. And at this past meeting, they kept being like, "Oh, Travis, wow, you were on a great meeting. You're really good at that." Like trying to butter me up to be chair for another year. So I might be chair of that one too, going forward.
Congrats. That's exciting.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. We do have project monitoring, correspondence, and site visit scheduling on our agenda before we forget about our agenda. Mitch, was there anything in there that we need to?
I went to Schultes property. There was just a special condition for the RDA for the agent to okay the soil stability before the erosion controls are taken out. So I did that.
Okay. Did you have any like photos or anything, or you just?
Yeah, there's some photos.
I guess we might as well look at them, right? I don't know. Not that we don't trust you, but I don't even remember what 41 Picket Lane is off the top of my head. Also, I just want to say that I'm glad that we made it through everything that we've made it through in the amount of time that we did. I feel like it was kind of a record pace for
I agree. That was amazing. Good job.
I mean, I think a lot of those projects were pretty straightforward, you know, like
No, I think you were moving it along pretty awesome. Good for you. Thank you.
It was a lot of like utility projects and stuff.
yeah, like a
Straightforward.
septic system.
good.
It's yeah.
Still isn't bringing me back to the
Like what project? It is.
project. Yeah.
Yeah, I am totally
It's
fine.
all
Nice
hydro
photo.
seeded.
Is that just a massive area of crushed stone up top? Or is it just a weird color on the screen?
Mitch, I don't know if you're saying anything, but you're muted right now.
Thank you. I was hoping these could jog your memories a little. These old photos.
Is this prior to my time on the commission? Because this isn't ringing any bells.
This was like a year ago.
Oh, no excuse
Okay,
then.
6-8.
I wasn't here, so
Mitch is the only one
Yeah.
with an excuse.
This was a new house.
I don't know, I'm looking up the project now.
Oh, it wouldn't have been a new house if it's an RDA.
Oh yeah, it was a house. I remember this one.
Yeah, it was a new house.
I think it was all there was just like a little bit that was in like riverfront area, and yet the riverfront area was like outside of the outside of even like where they were doing work, I think. Is that riverfront or is that I can't tell what that is.
I think that's a 100-foot buffer because then there's
Oh yeah.
the
25.
partition with the 25-foot
Yep.
quarter, a half, and then a whole. But I think wasn't this was one where they had like a previous plan approved and then it got outdated or something. They had to come back.
I don't know. I mean, all I remember is that there was just like this little corner that was, yeah, it was in like the 100-foot buffer zone, that corner. And I think we even had them like plant trees in there or something. I don't know.
I was absent at this meeting, to be honest. Normally, at least the plan, looks familiar
Yeah.
to me. But
I feel the same way. This is not jogging any memories for me.
Mitch, did you feel like it was? Do you need like? Did you give them approval on site? Was it stabilized, or do we need to do that based on your?
I just gave him the okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
So I just
Mitch
wanted to
actually asked
update
me
you
about
guys.
that. Mitch
Yeah.
asked me about that, and I think in the condition it just says that it needs approval by the agent or the commission to remove the erosion control.
Yeah, and he was wondering because he had his guys out, so it was convenient to take them out.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, most of the stuff you were taking pictures of was like outside of buffer zone area, you know.
It looked
There's-
stable, forested. So we don't need to vote.
No, I don't think so.
No, just an update.
Okay.
Well, that's a seeded, right? That gray color is that's just like the seeding for grass, right? Sorry, looked like crushed stone in the pictures, which didn't really make sense.
I remember this was a few weeks ago.
Yeah, no worries. It must be the seeding.
Oh, okay. So that's that like hydro seed. What do you call it? Spacing on what it's called. The foam.
It's like fiber mold
Mm.
something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say normally I wouldn't. In products that I've managed, I wouldn't remove the erosion controls until that had actually sprouted and established, because I've seen some irrigation mishaps and other things create some horrendous erosion channels through that hydroseeding mulch. It's not really an indication of permanent
I
stabilization.
would agree. Totally agree. It needs to be vegetated, not
Yeah,
that
mulched.
hydro seed foam.
Yeah. So in the future, I probably would not have. I would not have given them the permission to remove the erosion controls in this condition.
Although it does look relatively flat topographically in this from this vantage point.
It's hard to tell.
I know. But I do agree with that.
Smart, they sloped it in some direction.
Probably has positive drainage away from the house,
Yeah.
which would be toward the wetland.
Usually is.
Mitch, and then on the agenda, I see positive recommendation to the Department of Planning and Development on the potential sale of a portion of parcel 12453.
That's just a memo I sent from the parcel we talked about the last meeting.
Yeah, that
Which
was something that
basically
we
just
Clear
has
little
our
slice.
right.
Yeah.
It's just kind of our motion as a
Oh, right.
memo.
Okay.
Great.
Cool.
Thank you.
Well, if there's nothing else, I guess we've reached the end of our agenda.
Well, thank you for moving us along, Travis.
And Rachel's got something.
Well, I was just like, the last item of the agenda is our next meeting, right, which is July 12th. And I just had a request if you could add the meetings with the links, as long as the links are still valid, as long as we can still have links, to our calendar so that they show up on our Google Calendar as well as in the emails. Just help them to pop up automatically.
Sure.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Yep, no problem.
I always just go Greenfield Greenfield dash map and then go to Conservation Commission and then I click on it there. I'm like, that way I don't have to look through my email.
For some reason tonight, I searched Mitchell and the last email didn't come up, and all I was getting was the link to the previous meeting. I was like, why is this so annoyingly bad? And so anyway, it's also for scheduling reasons. Like I use the Google Calendar all the time, so having the meetings pop up there is really helpful.
I actually had an issue where I couldn't get WebEx to open. Like I was clicking the link and it would, be like spinning in the browser like it was gonna open, but it never opened. So I had to open WebEx and then manually put in the code and the password to get in.
But if you paste the link into the join, it usually will do it.
Okay.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, that one there's no discussion. I learned no discussion possible on that one. So we'll do a roll call vote here. Rachel,
Yeah.
Kristen,
Yes.
Fletcher.
Aye.
All right, and Travis, I am also an aye. So we are adjourned at 9:49 p.m.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Yeah.